talked about going to the Fourth Circuit and the judge saying that, well, look, I agree with you guys as a matter of policy that this decision is totally ridiculous, but as a matter of law, I disagree with the.
No, it was a state circuit court judge.
Oh, it was a state.
You have to. It's immediate appeal to the circuit court.
Oh, but it's not the Fourth Circuit.
No.
Okay. Well, either way, it sounded like that's a pretty. I guess as a law student, that sounded like it's a pretty formalistic ruling, one that's not necessarily based on the circumstances so much as what the law specifically says, and in many instances, I think that's the way to go. But do you think that courts should be less formalistic, at least less formalistic than that?
Well, my understanding is I go to court because I seek justice. And what the judge told me is I can't give you what you're seeking. I agree with you, but I can't give it to you. And then my response is, where do I go? If I cannot go to a court to find justice, where else can I go if injustice was done to my son? He did, in the courtroom, he did admonish the school very harshly. He had the disciplinary officer there, and I could feel his pain when the judge was grilling him. But then he came back and said, well, the state statute says I have to determine this case only on these three things.
Arbitrary and capricious, schools' actions have to be. But here's the thing with the judge. What he was saying was they acted arbitrarily and capriciously, but he wasn't willing to rule that. Well, that's what.
The thing that really actually kind of struck me about the story that you told was how kind of almost malicious the school administration was. When I was in school in high school, it was after exams. I had a plan to bring, me and some friends had a plan to bring in water guns, squirt the teachers with it. We had a very good relationship with the teachers. Fortunately, one of the teachers heard about it before we actually were able to put the plan into motion, or we would have all been expelled. But when they heard about it and when they were telling us, no, you can't do that, they were very apologetic. I'm sorry, but it's just policy. We've got to be careful. We know that you don't intend anything. But with your story, it seemed more like that they were very, you know, almost blaming. They didn't take any responsibility for, well, this is our policy and it's dumb, but we should have to do it. It seemed almost like they were adversarial or against you somehow. Did you get that feeling?
Well, my father had a comment on that. First off, I did the squirt gun thing in school, and how my science teacher handled it was he grabbed me by the collar and he jacked me up against the locker and he knocked it off. I threw that gun as far away from me as possible and walked away, and I never did it again. I won't tell all my stories in high school. My son is an angel compared to me. He knows more than I do. Yeah, I sense that, especially when on the initial phone call, before any discussion, they said, our intentions, this just happened, and our intentions are suspension, expulsion, and assault charges. It's like, maybe you might want to talk to me first and maybe see, you know, what happened. And the other part Mr. Whitehead brought up is, I didn't find out for almost a month later, but they also allowed the sheriff's department to come in and interview my son, and I didn't know anything about it. My son didn't even think to tell me. He thought it was just normal for that to happen at the school. So it took me a month to find out that he was actually told to write a statement, and that statement was used against him by the sheriff's department to initiate these charges, and I was not even made aware that this happened, let alone the school's own policy says before the school will allow law enforcement to talk to the students, every reasonable attempt will be made to contact the parents. They never even mentioned it to me.
I'm sorry, was he given his, I mean, if that was going to be used in court, if that information was going to be used in court, theoretically he should have been given a reading of his rights. Was he given anything?
Miranda?
Yeah.
Well, and
or some version thereof.
Even the sheriff's department, I researched this, their own policies for, they call them student resource officers or school resource officers, says that if they're questioning a student that they say you should read them their Miranda rights, that you should contact her. It says all these things. And the sheriff's response is, well, it's a policy and it's a recommendation, but we don't have to do it. We don't have to call you if we don't want to. And they also told me we don't have to show you his charges. We don't have to show you any reports that we generated. They never to this day showed me anything that they had done, you know, as far as reports and everything on my son. But yeah, I had that sense too that there was more to the story, and something just wasn't right. Why are they doing this to him? Did he do something to them? Is there something bigger going on here that we don't understand? And I still don't know the answer to that. You had.
Yeah, I was going to respond along those lines. The first, I went to the initial hearing. The first thing that really got me was the vindictiveness of this woman. She was the assistant principal, but she even stated that, you know, I'm not here to be equal-handed. I'm here to present the case against your grandson. And she got me very angry because she was throwing in opinions and insinuations. Like he said, she had other evidence that was supposedly found in the vicinity sometime later that she had showed this evidence to the school board. We saw some of her initial emails that basically said, you know, we want to get this guy. How can I word this? And I'm wondering why, you know, why she has this, you know, supposedly zero tolerance. I mean, they have no tolerance, but they, like he said, they violated their own rules numerous times in the same book, and yet they had this like vengeance against him. As a matter of fact, we even asked that he leave the room, my son and I, so that we could speak our piece with her. And I'm basically, you know, my word to her is that, you know, the injustice that you're perpetrating against my grandson is far greater than whatever small thing he did. You know, you're saying I want him pursued to the fullest extent of the law. I mean, she's just like going on and on. And I know my grandson. He's not a bully. He's never, you know, he's a little mischievous. He probably gets it from my son, but he's never harmed anyone. He's never hurt anyone. He's not the kind of kid that has a vengeance against anyone. He's totally easygoing. I'm sure he's picked on his sisters from time to time, but he's not the kind of kid that's violent whatsoever. And now they have this case, you know, based on him shooting a rubber band into the air and opening a comb, and now he's like along the lines of being a criminal. I mean, the way they even described the incident with the comb was that, you know, he brought this thing to school, was brandishing it, and we later found out it was a comb. Like, well, wait a minute, he wasn't threatening anyone with it. It wasn't like he was pretending that it was a knife. Right. He had it, he was proud of it, I bought it for him. And he's showing it to his friends. So, but they have this whole case now, this whole past history build up that he's a potential criminal. And, you know, we were very upset about it, you know, the way they handled the whole thing. And like I said, the other thing was that they violated their own code of conduct. Well, okay, that's no big deal. But you, and then the other thing is that along these lines is they hand out these zero tolerance booklets to everyone, you know, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, assuming that they've read this and understand this. First of all, what small child is actually going to maybe even not even bring this home? They don't make sure that the child even brought this thing home. This is the rule of life and death in the schools. Secondly, it's not written in a way for a student to understand. Thirdly, the way it's construed, what he did, brandishing a spitwad, is not in there.
Right.
There's nothing in there. So even if he understood that, there would be nothing in there to say, you know what I did is not in here. So in other words, according to this book, what he did is not a crime. If this is the Bible or whatever, there's nothing in there about that. Only if you twist it around and use words like premeditated, weapon, and say, you know what, this must be the same as a crossbow, a shotgun, or a rifle. What else could it be? You know, so it's not like a consistent policy. It's the most extreme arbitrary policy that you could possibly have. So it's defeated its own purpose. And the final thing I just wanted to say is the thing that maybe has disturbed me even more is that the sheriff's department was compliant with the school. Not only the school, you expect them to do things, but the sheriff's department coming in, you know, you see the different branches of government. I mean, who are we going to go to? Like my son said, if the sheriff now is with the school and the judges are with the school, that leaves the individual kind of unprotected. So that's all I want to say about that thing.
And in the comment on that, I spoke to a deputy with our sheriff's department, and he said, well, the sheriff did not want to get involved in this. And then I asked, well, why did he then? I mean, he's a duly elected representative of us. He does not work for the school. And I said, it's a very sad day in our county that the school can compel the sheriff and tell the sheriff what to do. So,
Can I say something?
Would they use deadly force? I mean, if the sheriff's department spoke and said a weapon is a weapon. Does that mean that you're now justified to go in a classroom, see a child with a pea shooter and kill him? And if that's true, if that is consistent logic, if that is a weapon, then you need to be able to do that to prevent him injuring someone. And do the parents know that your child could be shot dead in the classroom if he has a weapon? I mean, I don't know if that's...
I go to the same school as him. I'm a year ahead of him, and I have to do a service project of some sort for a program I'm in. Before this all transpired, I was working with Miss Andrews, the vice principal, that was trying to press charges against him. And in the past several months, I have not been able to get in contact with her. She's been very standoffish with me. And I think I'm going to have to change my service project that I've worked on all year because I've not been able to get in contact with her. And she's been the person that has been helping me along with my project that I will have to do next year throughout the entire school year. So theoretically, I'll have to do all my research and everything that I would use for my service project over the summer, which would not be fun.
so it's impacted our whole family. It's not just been on him, it's been on everyone. A lot of unseen things have impacted us as well.
To what extent were any of you aware that this sort of thing could happen, this sort of punishment? Like, I know you had discussed the actual booklet that came out, but were there any other incidences of this happening in the district before, or was this kind of the district's first big enforcement of the zero tolerance policy?
Well, I don't know for a fact how many kids shoot Spitwads, but there was a ton of them when I went to school, and I'm sure they're doing that today.
How many people here shot Spitwads or threw Spitwads? Dangerous? Oh, one of the Afghani ladies did.
There's a statute of limitations on that, isn't there?
من هم رئیس یک وزارت معارف هستم که شاگردای صنف اول تا صنف 9 تحت قیمیت است، اما ما خاطر شاگرد به اندازه میدانیم. آیا شاگرد که به مقابلش مدیر مکتب یا معلم یا از عقده کار میگیره و یا یک روش میکنه، نظارت از طرف ریاست معارف یا وزارت معارف صورت نمیگیره؟
I am a director at the Ministry of Education in Afghanistan, and we work with the students all the time from grade 1st to grade 9. If such a thing happens there, you mentioned you went to the court. However, how about the Ministry of Education or Department of Education in your case? What do they say? Are they involved? How does it work?
No, they're not involved. They fund the schools. There's only a few avenues to the Department of Education to appeal to them. The only avenue is basically controlled by state law. The avenue here is once the school has exacted the punishment, your appeals to the state circuit court. Depending on what the state circuit court does, the appeal after that is to the Virginia Supreme Court. And that's where we're headed now with the issue.